Ooh, we just love a little bit of trouble with UEFA, don't we? We can't get enough of it. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sink, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. We've got some more transfer stuff to dive into today, nothing absolutely concrete, but there are some little interesting tidbits happening across the board that are at least showing us the direction of what we're trying to do, which is good, right? We just love Chelsea news, don't we? So let's talk about it. But before we get into it, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking or sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so the UEFA stuff, right? We love getting in trouble with UEFA, don't we? Oh, yes. So today's news pertains to Chelsea and Aston Villa both being warned by UEFA that swap deals will be heavily scrutinised to make sure that neither clubs are inflating transfer fees to make deals look better than they are. Obviously, Chelsea and Aston Villa are both currently in trouble with UEFA. We've both recently been fined. Chelsea was 60 mil, Aston Villa was like 20, for failing to comply with financial regulations pertaining to European competitions because they have different rules to the Premier League, right? And obviously the majority of the buzz around Chelsea has been, we're looking for one more attacker. A few names have been mentioned, but it seems like Rodgers is the number one target. And on the reverse side of that, Aston Villa have shown potential interest in Nicholas Jackson. This has definitely got something to do with the fact that Chelsea are valuing Nicholas Jackson at £100 million. No, mate, no. And Morgan Rodgers was rated at £100 million, but it's recently come down to 80. Still a massive amount of money. Yes, he had a wicked season, but is he worth £80 million? Maybe Aston Villa want us to think so, but, you know, it seems a little bit much, doesn't it? So the thing that is interesting about this is it looked like that it wasn't going to be a swap move, and because UEFA has specifically stated swap moves will be scrutinised, I don't know if that's actually what we're looking at doing now. I thought it'd be a case of we sell them Jackson, they sell us Morgan Rodgers if it happens, but according to UEFA, apparently not. So it does make sense, doesn't it? Obviously, Chelsea and Aston Villa have both been in trouble with UEFA, we're both getting fines, we both have to comply with these financial regulations before next season in order to be able to register all of our new players in European competitions. If we don't get in line, then we're not going to be able to use the likes of João Pedro and Liam Delap and anyone else we bring in the Champions League. And especially after selling Noni Madueke and potentially Nicholas Jackson, that isn't going to work for anyone. So it's just a bit of a mess, isn't it? You can, you know, the brass blue code, they love gaming the system, don't they? They love finding loopholes and this and that and the other. But it's been a couple of years now, and, you know, the hierarchy, the powers that be, they are starting to cotton on to our financial games. In addition to this news, there is a little bit more news pertaining to the Morgan Rodgers transfer in general that I actually found quite interesting. So we've all already seen the stuff about Jackson for Morgan Rodgers, right? But what I've seen today is apparently Chelsea have offered up to 4 other players in exchange to be able to get the Morgan Rodgers deal over the line. Some of these I would be okay with, some of these I would absolutely not be okay with at all, and it is a little bit worrying because this is the first time I've seen some of these players been mentioned in transfer stuff at all, and it's players I really think that we should be trying to keep hold of. So in addition to Nicholas Jackson, Chelsea are putting up the likes of Benoit Badiashile, Tosin Adarabioyo, and either of those two, it was, you know, Tosin a bit more. I'd really like to keep hold of Tosin, but I would kind of be okay with it. You know, it's not the end of the world kind of thing. But the other two players are Trevor Chalobah and Andre Santos. No, not Andre Santos. We have to keep him. Please, we have to keep him. So in a nutshell, this is a good thing and a bad thing, right? The bad is obviously I don't want to lose either of Andre Santos or Trevor Chalobah. I haven't seen us linked with any excellent centre-backs, do you know what I mean? So if we're not going to go in for a top-notch centre-back, then Trevor Chalobah seems like the best option to keep hold of him. And Andre Santos is just done so well at the Club World Cup, man. Do you know what I mean? He's come in and played his role admirably. He looks like an absolutely brilliant backup. I know we've just brought in Dario Asugo, but Andre Santos looks like a real baller, man. And even trying to think from the Blueco point of view, right? If we keep hold of him for another season, or at least loan him again, then he could be worth loads of money in a season or two, man. So throwing him into this deal to get Morgan Rodgers over the line now just feels a little bit hasty in my eyes. And the good part of all of this is that they really want Morgan Rodgers, right? I've done a video quite recently on Morgan Rodgers, his tactical acumen, ability, where he featured for Aston Villa, where he might feature in the Chelsea team. If we get any close to this deal and it starts to seem a little bit more real, I might do some more stats and comparison stuff because you guys seem to love that. But for the moment, we're just reacting to news and vibing it out. So if Morgan Rodgers is the absolute top target for Chelsea, I am okay with that. I'm not going to lie to you. Obviously, I kind of want him either way, but if UEFA's little warning here makes him be less than 80 mil, then that's not necessarily a bad thing for us, especially as I already don't consider Jackson for 100 mil even being a remote possibility. So that is that, but let's move on to some of the other news that I have seen today. We all knew it was coming, but we're starting to see stuff about it now, and we're starting to see numbers. It's Raheem Sterling, right? So Raheem Sterling had a couple of reasonably okay seasons at Chelsea, his best one being a 10-goal and 11-assist return. So not a bad season, but he severely dropped off and he just started looking like he didn't want to be there, didn't he? So it just seemed evident that for all parties, the best thing to do was to move him on. We loaned him to Arsenal last year, but we paid 2/3 of his wage. So he's on like 300 grand a week, and we still paid 200 grand a week of that, even though he was on loan at Arsenal. He did not do a good job of getting into that Arsenal team, and he is now back at Chelsea, twiddling his thumbs. So we've got to figure out what to do with him. So Sterling has basically intimated that he would like to remain in London, and that's probably what these other clubs have heard, because from the reports I've seen, the other clubs that are interested potentially in getting Sterling are the likes of Crystal Palace, which if they sell Eze would make sense. They're going to need to replace that kind of experience and output, but also Fulham, Brentford and West Ham. So wages is just the problem, right? Wages is just absolutely the problem, and none of those clubs are going to pay him 300 grand a week. It's just absolutely not going to happen. So what I'm worried about, and what I think will probably end up happening, is he'll just go on loan again, and we'll just do the same thing where someone pays him 100 grand a week and we pay him 200, and it frees up the spot in the squad, right? Which is a good thing, but obviously that's a chunk of change, man. We're still paying like 2.5 mil a year just to have him out on loan somewhere. That's what that is costing us. It's crazy. But it's a situation we dug ourselves into when the Blueco guys first came in tow. So it's just something we're going to have to deal with. He's got a contract until 2027. Obviously, we're going to want to sell him. The purported fee we'd be willing to take for him is 20 mil. So supposedly what he's got left on his deal combined with the wages, we're going to lose money unless we sell him for 30. But at this point, they're willing to kind of wipe that extra 10 mil off. And if they can get 20 mil for him, then they'll see that as a reasonable shot to take. But yeah, it's just a shame, innit? I loved Raheem Sterling at City, and even at Liverpool when he was a young whippersnapper of a lad. He was so good. But it's just never worked in a Chelsea shirt, and it's just best for everyone if we find a way to maneuver our way out of this one, right? Another player that we are looking to get off of our books, and it is a surprise to absolutely no one, is Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall was bought for 30 mil from Leicester after they got promoted, and that's obviously exactly the same time that we got Maresca in. He was literally the focal point of that Leicester team, but he's just not pulling up trees at Chelsea at all, is he? He's really struggled for game time. He's basically spent most of his time playing in the Conference League, and any time he's played recently, he's not even being played in his proper position. We just keep putting him out on right wing. So it's not working for him. It's not working for us. He's not exactly Danny Drinkwater 2.0, but do you know what I mean? It's just like with how stacked our midfield is, and the likes of Esteval coming in, and we've got Jamie Gittins and all these other attackers, and obviously we're looking at getting Morgan Rogers as well. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall is just going to get 0 game time. So we want 30 mil for him apparently, and West Ham in particular have balked at the price. Balked, I tell you. But yeah, West Ham, Fulham and Everton have expressed interest in taking Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. West Ham and Everton in particular think it's a bit expensive, so maybe Fulham can save us from that one. But are Fulham going to take Raheem Sterling and Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall off our hands? Well, I'm not sure about that one. And the last piece of outgoing news I've seen today pertains to Mr. Renato Vega. So I did actually yesterday comment on Renato Vega has been shown interest from Bayern Munich. And that makes sense. You know, it seems to have been tepid interest at the moment. But today I've seen a number. And not only a number, we've seen another club be interested in him as well. So I said it in my video yesterday. If we get anything north of 20 mil for Renato Vega, that's amazing business. You buy a player, he plays 10 to 15 games for you. You know, we bought him for 10 mil, we sell him for 20, we double our money in a year. Awesome, brilliant business. But supposedly we want 35 million pounds or 40 million euros for him. That's a little bit much, but he does look like a really good player. You know, he did pretty well at Juventus, although it didn't start very well from there in his back end of the season loan sort of thing. But yeah, whether Bayern Munich or Atletico Madrid, who are the other team that are interested, are willing to pay 40 mil does remain to be seen. I think personally it will be 25 to 30, and if it's 30 we triple our money. If it's 25 we more than double our money. Either way it's good business, but Bayern have just got to keep their hands off Gusto. And I'm going to wrap up the video today with not necessarily transfer news, but something that I find, I'm a bit of a nerd, right? I find all this financial gubbins quite interesting myself, and what I have seen is the reason that Arsenal were happy to pay 52 million for Noni Madueke. So the Noni Madueke transfer in general has people split down the middle, right? And that's divisive between Arsenal and Chelsea fans both. Chelsea fans are, you know, ultimately because of the money we get in for him, that really softened the blow. But a lot of Chelsea fans are like, it feels like, you know, he's still really young, we could give him a bit more of a chance. And Arsenal fans, literally like 4,000 of them signed a petition, not Madueke. So the Arsenal fan base is really split on him coming into Arsenal. And obviously you see the transfer fee, right? You see the transfer fee and you're like, that is a lot of moolah. But supposedly the reason that Arsenal were happy to pay £52 million for him, which does seem like a lot for what could potentially end up being a backup, is that his wages are so low, right? And he's on 70 grand a week, you know, and yes, £70,000 a week is an exorbitant amount of money. It is outrageous. But as far as top tier Premier League footballers go, you know, playing in your top 4 teams, competing in the Champions League and trying to go for the nation's greatest honours, 70 grand isn't actually that much. For instance, isn't Brian Mbeumo going to be on like 200k plus a week at Man United? Do you know what I mean? So getting a Noni Madueke on your team for 70 grand a week is actually really affordable in the long run. So yes, it might seem like the transfer fee was a bit inflated, but obviously they have juxtaposed that against the fact that his wage is going to be so low, and they won't be looking at improving his wage unless he performs really well. So in that respect, it's a win-win for them, right? I think it's a 5-year deal, so that's only going to cost them 10 mil a season on their books. So the instant outlay isn't actually very much for Arsenal at all. And the fact that he's not going to cost him an arm and a leg in wages makes the deal really affordable when you kind of start digging into it a little bit. What it does really say positively about Chelsea is this new structure that we have set with incentivized contracts, getting people in on low contracts and making them perform in order to improve them is working. For instance, Cole Palmer came in on 60 grand. He'll be on like 150 or something now because obviously he got the contract extension after his first amazing season, and after this season everyone's just had some sort of a bump in their pay because we won the Club World Cup, and supposedly that was equivalent to the bump they would have got if they won the Champions League. So that's all worked really well. Do you know what I mean? We bring these players in and we generally only give them pay rises if they perform well, and because Noni Madueke essentially underwhelmed for us, he never got offered that pay rise. And what that has done is allowed us to get 52 million on the books right now, minus amortization costs, blah, 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 blah. And Arsenal are happy to buy him for that price because he's not going to cost them a huge amount in the long run. So yes, Blueco, congratulations. You know, we're actually starting to see the model is working, right? You know, we've just won 2 trophies and, you know, things are looking really good for next season. We're going to start getting into tactics and title aspirations and all of that coming soon. Don't worry. Obviously, I want to kind of focus on transfer stuff at the moment because that is what's mostly being talked about. And then when we've got a few more through the door and pre-season's looking like it's going to about to start, then we're going to start getting into all of that stuff. But for the time being, look, it works. We are buying young players. Look, if we sell Renato Vega for 30 mil, awesome business. And it's not all just about selling academy players and that at the moment. I think that was something they did at the start, largely. I mean, you got to think just between Conor Gallagher and Mason Mount, they made like 100 mil profit straight away on the book. So in order to give the finances like an insta boost, and that, you know, in retrospect it makes sense, and that has allowed us to get people like Cole Palmer, Pedro Neto, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, more recently like João Pedro, and it does all seem to look like it's coming together. There are still risks with this, right? Because if Cole Palmer just drops off the face of the earth after getting a few pay rises, then we're lumbered with a player on a high wage with a long contract that we are going to struggle to get rid of. But as long as the players feel incentivized to keep on getting better and we keep finding buyers for players that aren't finding their way into the team anymore, and you got to think that's probably another thing about the going for youngsters, right? Because if you get, you know, like for instance, when Arsenal put Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on that like 350 grand a week deal, he just dropped off the face of the earth and he was like 29, 30 already. Do you know what I mean? So he was like, I've only got a couple of years left in my career. Do you know what I mean? Obviously my contract's going to run out in the next few years or whatever. I'm just going to sit and coast because I've played a lot of football, I've done really well or whatever. You know, I don't know if that's exactly what it was, but that is kind of the purported mentality that he had, right? But when you've got young players, then they're a lot less likely to be like that, aren't they? It's like, I forgive anyone for coasting on their contract if a club has agreed to pay them 300 grand a week. You're not turning that money down. That's outrageous. So for me, that's always the club's fault, never the player's fault. If you know, no one in the world in their right mind is turning down getting paid that amount of money, and if they're not playing, then they're literally just getting it for free. It's like Gareth Bale when he spent all of his time playing golf at the end of his Real Madrid contract. But if you're 21, 22, 23 and you're not getting in the team, you're young, you're hungry, you're ambitious, you're still looking at the next decade of your career being like, I really still want to play football. There's still so much further I can go. And to kind of cash in on your potential in your late 20s is one thing, but to cash in on your potential in your early 20s when you're still looking at a decade of your career is an entirely different prospect. So for me, you know, it's really starting to make sense, and it's so much, it's not even just about development, right? It is actually linked to making it easier to sell them as well. Noni Madueke is a perfect example. Noni Madueke, 70 grand a week is good, but he's still hungry enough to be like, I can go in another team and I can do more, and I want to do more, and I want to play football. And they've probably put him on a better deal as well, haven't they? I haven't actually seen his wage, but it's just starting to make sense, and I feel positive, right? I generally feel positive. This can all completely fall apart. Do you know what I mean? If all of our players start doing really badly and end up on these long contracts and we can't get rid of them, and we have a Man United decade and we just absolutely sink down to the bottom and become laughable, then yeah, sound, I'm going to be eating these words with a rusty spoon. But, you know, unless that happens, if things keep going the way they're going right now, it looks like we're making the right decisions. So that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for sticking around until the end. I have got some really interesting stuff coming up. I'm going in on collabs, right? I had a really, really good time with my friend Quentin, who from the Red and Blue podcast. We did the PSG Chelsea preview. I'm filming 2 really interesting podcasts this week. One of them with fellow Chelsea YouTuber Behind the Dugouts, who we literally started at like exactly the same time. Really nice guy. We've chatted a lot and we're going to get on camera and do it together. And another one is a very old friendly rival of mine who's an Arsenal fan, and we're just going to get into it, man. We're really, really going to get into it. So that sort of stuff's coming up. And for in and around when I hit 500 subscribers, I've got something really, really special. If you guys are Chelsea football YouTube fans, as I was before I started, you're really going to like this one. So that's it, guys. Nice one. Thanks for sticking around until the end of the video. I hope you guys are having a wicked day. I will keep my ear to the ground for more Chelsea news as ever. Can't wait to catch up with you really, really soon. Take it easy. Peace.